For me, I think many of the managers that I know, John Silva, Jim Garno, some of the bigger guys, everyone has a path. Maybe a guy was a musician himself. Maybe a guy was a road manager and parlayed that into managing a band, and then stopped road managing and just became a manager and started managing 4 bands, 5 bands, 10 bands. My thing is that I was never a road manager, and I never was a professional musician. I was a journalist, both a music journalist from the time I was 18 and an investigative journalist, which means I was writing record reviews for Ray Gun magazine. Remember them? I wrote for the first 2 years of Ray Gun, getting paid $25 per record review, waiting 6 months to get paid, and all that great stuff. I was also the music editor of a weekly paper in Milwaukee. Literally when I was 18 years old. I did that from 18 to 22 years old. I had no idea what I was doing, but I knew I could write, and I knew a number of people who could write and a number of photographers, and we put together 4 pages a week of previews, reviews, interviews. And from that vantage point, I met a musician of a band that I actually was very critical of in my writing, who thought I was a pretty enterprising guy and asked me if I would manage his band. This band, they were called Wild Kingdom, and they were a funk punk ska band like Fishbone or Bad Brains or something out of Milwaukee. And I went and met with the band, and I thought, again, I don't know what the heck I'm doing, but I think I can do this. And as a music journalist and a college radio DJ at WMSE in Milwaukee, I was kind of nearing the end of my interest in being a DJ and a music journalist, and thinking, again, if I could get closer to the heat, that could be more interesting. Money didn't even come into it for me. I mean, I was making more money writing than I was managing that band in the early days. Money didn't even occur to me. It was just about, I want to be closer to the heat. I want to be somebody who is part of the creative process, not someone who's writing about it. And so I just kept following this path and stumbling into having more fun at doing what I was passionate about. Money is, there's an old saying, money is what you need to buy things that you can't create yourself, right? You need to pay your mortgage, you need to pay for your gas in your car and your electric bill and your kids' tuition and all that stuff. And I think with success and with doing ethical business, which is something I'm very, very into, I think money is the byproduct of doing that. That's a very interesting question. I know some people who would honestly answer that money is the most important thing to them. I think money is an important thing to me, but again, it's a byproduct of doing what I love doing. And that's a truthful statement for me. I can absolutely tell you that I wake up every morning, even on a bad day, even on a tough day when I've got 15 black clouds hanging over my business that I have to deal with. It's that very youthful, very curious passion or heat. I still listen to that Beatles song on my, thank God for iTunes. I can still listen to Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers and still wonder, like, how in the hell did these guys do this? I was just listening when you came over to a live recording of them, and it's like perfect. And it's that quest for figuring out how to do this. Interestingly enough, I've never had a platinum record. I've never even had a gold record as a manager, as a producer manager I have. And so that's part of the carrot on the end of the stick that I'm constantly chasing for. Plenty of my friends have had multi-platinum records, and I'm still chasing that ring, if you will. Again, it's not about the money. It's about, like, wow, what would it be like if? What will it be like when?
How do you find artists?
Well, artists are crazy, and artists need our help. I think artists are crazy, and I say that in a very respectful way. I always tell people, if you knew, Mr. Artist, how to do X, Y, and Z, and you could be responsible enough and care enough about returning phone calls and emails and strategizing your career, you wouldn't need me. Especially now in the days of email and websites and FTP downloads and all that. The management game and the artist game has changed. First of all, labels, A&R people, business managers, everybody has more direct access to the clients, to the artists. It's no longer like the manager is just the hub of communication and there's a secret veil in between everybody and the artist. It's very open now. I love that craziness that comes along with artists. I love I like to think that I'm good at choosing artists and working with artists over a long period of time, to help them with their vision. I think that the manager's job is very simple, and I remember this every day because I know what my job isn't. My job isn't to be their friends. If you become friendly with the client, that's great. Again, that's a byproduct. My job is to help my clients meet their goals, to find out what are their needs and wants and to help them meet their goals. Simple as that. If you have a client who says, I want to make $1 million and I don't want to sign to a major label, but I'm willing to put my songs in Prel commercials, that's fine. Then don't waste your time trying to sign your band to Epic Records. Try and get them in their music into commercials, and try and get them to sell t-shirts and to sell concert tickets.
How do you locate artists to represent?
I've like many managers, if there's 100 ways to meet an artist and get in a room with an artist and find that person, I've probably hit every 100 of those ways. Sometimes it's as boring as a lawyer calling you. I manage a band called The Vacation, where I got a call from their lawyer, who was someone I was friendly with, and one of the other partners at his firm represented me. And I ran into his assistant when I was in their office. A couple weeks later, he called me and he said, your name came up today as a hungry young manager. I've got this great band. They were then called The Sons, as you may recall. And he said, I've got this band. Their demo's incredible. They're incredible live, but I'm not sure if they're one step from stardom or one step from nothing. Could I send you the CD? I got the CD. By the time the first chorus of the first song hit, I called him and said, you're crazy if you think this band isn't the most amazing thing ever. They happened to be playing that night, and the rest is history. Rick Rubin signed them after about 2.5 years of us working on an independent label level and just putting one foot in front of the other, doing all the things you're supposed to do. And now, one of the biggest producers in the history of rock and roll signed them to his label. It's re-releasing the album that we already made. And that's a very boring example of how I signed a very exciting band. Sometimes you find it through a friend of a friend. Sometimes you find it through a band that may have turned you down for representation, but you had a good connection with, and they liked you, but they signed with another manager for other reasons. And they might stay in touch with you, and they might say, hey, these young guys we met on tour, they need a manager. Would you be interested in checking them out? It happens every possible way. Sometimes other managers recommend you to people that they love and can't take on. Or they might think that you're really good at doing something. I've managed a couple of artists from France who have very, very nice careers in America but need an American manager to look after their career here and to help build what they're doing. So I've kind of gotten into that swing of things.